How are things with you?
They're good. Just grand over here in Texas.
The Mark Rippetoe beef is fucking hilarious.
Oh, yeah? I find it to be a little bit annoying, but also, yeah, I'm having fun with it.
Yeah.
I'm having fun with it. Basically, it dates back to like a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago. He had a podcast, an hour-and-a-half podcast about Olympic weightlifting, and he goes off on these just ridiculous diatribes that have no bearing in reality at all because, you know, he doesn't participate in weightlifting coaching, like in any shape or form, and everyone knows that. And I responded to it because he typically just says weightlifting coaches don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's like his thing. And I'm not taking that out of context. The biggest issue with all of this is everyone thinks that I'm taking his arguments out of context when they're pretty plain and simple. And if I am taking them out of context, someone contextualize them for me, please. Okay? But anyways, his main thesis is weightlifting coaches don't know what they're doing. And so what I did was I wrote a comment back. And then he posted this thing. He has this thing called comments from the haters. And I was the number one comment. So he read it off in one of his other podcasts. So then I decided like a year later to make a video on it. Then when I made a video on it, like I realized I was making jokes and I was offending some people in it. So I decided to make another one, but a little bit more clear. However, in that time that I decided to make another one, he talked about Lasha. And so then now he's just giving us gold. Okay, saying it like, and I quote, Lasha had a great Lasha had a great lift, could have been better technique from our viewpoint. But hey, look, it doesn't matter. It's half of your deadlift. Technique doesn't matter. That's the whole quote. It starts with Lasha's technique could have been better, and then on to the next part of the quote. And I'm the one who miscontextualized all of that. I didn't understand it, I guess.
Yeah.
So now they just posted a response video to my response, and Men's Health magazine picked it up. Men's Health.
But that'll tell you how relevant Men's Health is now that they're doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like 12 years ago, 10
Yes.
years ago, Men's Health used to be like we would have all bought a Men's Health magazine at some point and tried to work out from them. And now they're using random internet stuff to make an article because they have nothing to post about. Like my favorite part about that video that he made. So that dude in the background, he's like hosts or technical. He's Jamie basically.
Yeah.
He's Jamie with a mustache or whatever.
Yeah.
Was like, no. So they even read their own quote. So they said, it's half his deadlift, technique doesn't matter. And now they're saying, Mark, you say technique doesn't matter. And you're like, is this for real?
Yeah,
like,
that's what he just said.
How dare we take your words at face value? Like, what? Like,
Yeah.
I don't even get, that doesn't even make sense like that.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. It's like, okay, so I actually was going to write a comment. I was like, if what you say isn't what you mean, what do you mean? You know, like if what you mean isn't what you mean, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like what is language anymore? If we can't, you know, and the funny thing is he starts off with just like this fucking child. He says this fucking child must be 30 years old. Is 30 years old children these days?
Yeah. But that's just a way of like belittling you.
Yeah.
Your reel was pretty funny as well. We had a good laugh yesterday
Yeah.
at your 31.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because you know what was interesting? The court of public opinion is frying him right now. And I was gonna make another video, but I was just like, you know what? I feel like I've won this battle if I just walk away from it.
Yeah.
He's in that like really dangerous Louis Simmons place now where like, do you remember Louis Simmons did a barbell shrug thing where they went and did weightlifting coaching with bands?
No, they also did cleans from a chair. Remember they had them sit in a chair and like get into the clean.
But like he's at the point where every single thing he says now is gold dust. Like everything can be reacted to.
Yeah.
Everything is hilarious.
Yeah, it's that's the thing, is like he's becoming more and more of a meme. I mean, I don't. My response to him was just like something funny that I came up with in like 4 seconds.
Yeah.
And just decided to do that video and then move on. And then I saw that Men's Health posted that, and I was like, God, I gotta make a video about it, because it's like, I mean, as irrelevant as Men's Health is now, it's like, it's Men's Health.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
If I'm being indirectly, portrayed in that, I think it's worthwhile. But still, I just want to move on from it. You know what I mean?
It's hard for you to not make a video with Men's Health and Mark Rippetoe on the title. I mean, that would be a hard one not to click on for most people. So if you, like, anyone involved in it for more than a couple of years, like, that's a hard opportunity to pass up. Just of those things in that title.
I filmed it. I filmed the video, and I sent it to my editor, and then I canceled. I was like,
really?
I'm not doing it. So I swear to God. Because the whole thing was like, any argument that I would make against Mark Rippetoe about his last video, people were already making in the comment section. You know what I mean? So like, people were already saying like, hey, Mark, you're using ad hominems. All of your arguments are flawed. And they're pointing out all of the things that I would end up pointing out. And so it's like, I don't need to do that. And also, like, internet beefs it's not really a good look. You know what I mean? It gets a lot of clicks, it gets the algorithm going for you, but it's not a good look. I just want to make, my idea of lunchtime content. That's what I call it. It's like, okay, you're sitting down, you got your lunch, you put your AirPods in at work, and you don't want anyone to fucking talk to you while you eat your lunch, and then you put on the next Zack Telander YouTube video.
Okay,
That's what I want to make.
Yeah.
Just one last comment on the Mark Rippetoe. Probably the most egregious part of the video he made was he said he invented general sports training and in sports specific
Insane.
practice.
Insane.
He said that's my thing. How, like, that annoyed me the most. That actually annoyed me. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what? Like, you didn't invent that. No one invented that. That's the thing that happened.
Yeah, no one invented that. That's okay. So you practice your sport and then you get stronger. That's your model. That's fucking batshit crazy. We can't gloss over that.
No,
that's fucking bananas.
But the favorite part is he's a load of subscribers who are still like, okay, yeah. Mark did invent that stuff,
Yeah.
Speaking of other internet, and I've got to hand to you, Zach. You've been on Joel Seidman's case for at least 2 years. Like, you've been on top of this bullshit for such a long time.
Oh yeah.
Look, Mike did a great job. Mike did a phenomenal job. He made it really, like, really concise, really neutral. Everyone who's any bit of kind of intellect was kind of like, okay, that's clearly Joel's a quack.
Yeah.
But I still would have loved to seen a debate between you and Joel.
Yeah, and I think now if I ever debate Joel, I would destroy him now.
Yeah.
Because what we're getting is the after debate activity. And that's the best, right? It's like, what I can now point to is, hey, Joel, you said this in the debate, and now you're doing the opposite of what you said. Before, you would just say whatever, and before you would just act, and you would never promise anything else, right? You would never agree with anyone else. You would just do your thing, which is not admirable. Really, it's kind of, shameless promotion of whatever he does. But now he's basically agreed and sided with Mike Israetel on so many different things. Did you guys understand the language he was using? It was brilliant. It was honestly brilliant. It masked his flaws.
Yeah.
He would side with Mike. He would compliment Mike. He would compliment, the guys on Powercast, Mark Bell and them, like. He made it. He subdued every single argument into something playful, and then now he goes and does the exact opposite of whatever he was saying or whatever he was talking about. So if I was to debate him now, it would be even easier. You know what I mean? It would just be like, I would just pull up an Instagram post and be like, okay, you said this, but now you're doing this.
Yeah.
Tell me why, and that would be it.
I really, that stuff is so slimy, the complimenting. So before anything Mike said to him, he'd be like, oh, Mike, I love your work, you're a really big fan of your method and all this. Like, that stuff is so see-through. Like, I feel like that's so that's just that's something about that is just something really irks me about that kind of that language. You know, when people are very clearly like pandering to someone. But anyway, Zach, beefs aside, how is your new YouTube? How's the new YouTube Renaissance going? How's that going for you? You've like really enjoying some new videos.
Oh, it's good. It's good. You know, I don't know really how hard to push it. I'm still kind of feeling it out. Like, I could do, like, I'm thinking of a video right now. It's kind of like, I guess kind of a natty or not, but it's about CrossFit, and I think it's due time. My friend Ian the Rhino, he made a post. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, we just watched it earlier today.
Just this morning, yeah.
You saw his post?
Yeah.
So they deleted it. CrossFit deleted it. So, and it had like 400 likes on CrossFit's page. So like, I feel like that's something worth talking about. And the woman who they posted, Jesus Christ. Like, I don't personally, you know, I know you guys like to, you talk about the way that weightlifters look a lot, like the Chinese team, and I kind of like, I do as well, but I also try to like really stay away from that to a certain extent. But this woman, man, I looked at her Instagram, and she's got like serious leg veins.
Yeah.
Like leg veins, bro. That, to me, that is like, I don't know how genetically gifted some random CrossFitter could be.
Yeah.
That's the thing with a lot of these people is like, what was their athleticism like before any of this? And if it, I just don't see it being what people think it is. But anyways, Ian's post was like, hey, you know, this whole farce of CrossFit being clean, like almost entirely clean. You guys don't pop any of the games athletes. Like, that's bullshit. And he posted it on CrossFit, on their post of this woman who has leg veins. And that, when I checked, it had 350 likes in like an hour. Meaning people were like, fuck yeah, Ian, you're right. And I checked again last night before going to bed, and it was gone.
Yeah, it's like, so obviously there's the aesthetic of how she looks, right? She has leg veins, she has ab veins in just a normal picture when she's not working out. But then it's also a female who's doing that amount of training and clean and jerking, or at least cleaning 125 kilos.
Right.
Like, granted, they're like genetic anomalies, but it's very, 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 very unlikely that she's that much of a genetic
So
anomaly.
you're saying basically neither of them. I don't know.
I think
Essentially, neither of them are impossible,
yeah.
but both of them at the same time make it impossible.
No, but
It's so unlikely when you understand how many people are doping. Like, we've talked about CrossFit a good bit before on our channel, and we always kind of talk about after 2010, it's very, very unlikely you have more than kind of 10% of the CrossFit Games athletes are clean. So then why would you then assume this athlete who's in that kind of shape is going to be clean and having all these performance markers at the same time? Like, it's so unlikely. It's very, very easy to then make that comment and say you're not clean.
Yeah, and coming out of nowhere too. That's how these things always are. They just, some rando who's got decent genetics and can take and is a good responder to androgens too. That's like a very important one. Good responder, good genetics, good work ethic, gets in the gym a lot, works really fucking hard. Those types of people can get fucking shredded, and a clean is not that difficult. Like just a clean from the floor, it's not that difficult of a movement. You know, all things considered, that person can exist. You know, and we're seeing it, but there is a key factor in that, and that is androgens. So I would like to make a video about that. It's just, I don't know how far I'm going to push that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I want to go down the more plates, more dates route where, you know, he's weird. He's almost exempt from drama.
yeah, it's strange, very strange.
He can criticize people, and just people just kind of go, oh yeah, but that's what he does. No one really.
That's very true, actually.
Yeah.
That is very true, yeah.
You know, it's like, for me, if I make another Rippetoe video, I'm sure people will watch. I'm sure, You know, there are a lot of people who are uninformed of the latest video he made of me, but I'm going to get a lot of people that are just going to say, you know what, Zach, you bitch too much. You fucking go after people too much. You complain. Like, it's weird how many comments I get of people being like, hey, you know, I've noticed the tone of your videos. You just complain a lot more.
Oh my God.
And it's like, no, I fucking don't. That's just not true, because I'll make 3 videos. Like, I made the Vyacheslav Klokov video. I made the, I made the video on the Bulgarian training. What was it?
Old school weightlifting.
Yeah, old school weightlifting, the Bulgarian training. And then I'll make a complaint video, I guess is what you're going to call it. And then people are just going to get mad because it's like this contrarian thing. This you know what I mean? The commenters who just have to go against the grain. They have to. And they have to find a way to do it that will, the most legitimate way in their mind is to say, oh, Zach's just bitching all the time.
Yeah. There's definitely people who want just a comment and it just to be that they're unique from everyone else. Like, they want to feel like, I'm watching a Zack Telander video, but I'm watching it from a different perspective than you are. And they'll write the little mini essay. They won't really like ask a question or say anything. They'll just kind of ramble for 2 or 3 paragraphs just to make themselves different from the normal person in their eyes.
You know, that's really interesting you said about Derek gets no criticism for criticizing everyone. That's so interesting. I never thought about
There's no one who has a beef against him.
No.
And it's like, well, that's so weird. I could never do that. I mean,
way.
People would fucking fry me. They would eviscerate me. I already get fucking fried. No one is against Derek. No one.
Like, we made the 3 tiers of doping CrossFit, how CrossFitters get away with doping, basically, and like loads of positive comments. Like, most of them are positive, right? But there are still like people being like 15 minutes and that one bit of evidence, and you're like, do you need evidence when you have like 8% body fat females snatching like 95 kilos and then doing sprints later in the day and then running half a marathon and then doing like a marathon or a rower and stuff, and you're like, do you do you need evidence? Like, what? Like, it's
think about it like this: the game is recovering. The fucking sport is only recovering. Why? Because it's fucking easy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. CrossFit is fucking easy. None of the movements are difficult for me. None of them. Maybe if I, here's the problem. It's about work capacity, right? So, okay, a fucking handstand push-ups, not actually difficult. To do thousands of them after running, that's difficult because it's just work capacity. It's not, you want to know what's more difficult is playing basketball.
Yeah.
Playing football, playing soccer, playing rugby, playing, actual sports where you have to make decisions and there's stimulus coming at you. Like, so in that, this is always, first off, this is going to sound like I'm roasting CrossFit, like I fucking hate it. That's what I started weightlifting from. Okay? And I actually love CrossFit for that reason. But people need to understand it's not a game for real athletes. Like rugby, go play rugby. Go play, that shit's difficult. That's hard. And you take a lot of people who they find a formula. Yeah, we don't know what's coming at us with CrossFit, but you kind of do. They tell you exactly what you're gonna do, and then you go do it. It's like, weightlifting to a certain extent is like that. What's interesting about weightlifting is like it's such a finite and narrow point that we have to get to that there's so much mental strain to get the most out of yourself. It's like beyond sport at that point. It's very weird. We know we're snatching, we know we were clean and jerking, and we know exactly the point in time in which we're going to do it. But there's so many decisions beforehand that just make it into this crazy sport. CrossFit to me seems like, okay, you can do 100 push-ups. Let's see who can do 1,000 push-ups. Let's see who can do 2,000 push-ups. That's not making anything more difficult, right? It's the skill itself is not difficult. So,
no, it's an interesting point, Zach, for you personally. Like, you were, the last time you've been on the Sika podcast was episode 42, right? So it was like a year and a half ago. At that time, you were still weightlifting competitively. And now in the last 12 months, you've taken a fairly big step away from the weightlifting thing and come into jiu-jitsu. Do you want to talk a small bit about that and just like some of those skill challenges of, I'm not sure if you had wrestled before, but some of the challenges of going into a very skill-based sport like that?
Well, actually, it's mentally almost freeing because it's the opposite of weightlifting in every single way. In every single way, like energy system use, skill learning, all of that. So it's like I was interested in weightlifting because it was the opposite of lacrosse for me. Mm-hmm. So it helped me just go boom. I could just shoot off and have this, which is novel, right? There was a point in time where that novelty wore off, and I go, whoa, do I really like weightlifting? And then I pushed for like 3-4 more years, and that's when I started to get my results. It's like when the novel wears off, that's how that's when it's starting. That's when the process is starting for you, right? Because that's when there's no more fun to be had. It's all just work. I guess fun can come from other things, but you have to push past things. You don't get that outside stimulus. So for me right now, I'm getting that. And I'm a year in. I'm over a year into training jiu-jitsu, and I'm still getting that kind of novelty of it. It wears off every once in a while, but the main challenge for me is like, I want to go to the gym and I don't want to lose my strength. So I go to the gym and I start doing my strength movements and I feel awful doing them. And mainly, I've noticed it's mainly because of my build. Like, I swear, it's like my leg, like squatting for me when I'm not like a weightlifter training with that weightlifting mindset feels awful. We have our coach at the gym. He's like, honestly, Owen, he's like built like you, and he's fucking good at jiu-jitsu, right? So think about the opposite. We both have different games. It's really cool. Like jiu-jitsu, there's the gamut of people that you get there. He's built like you, Owen, and when he squats, it just feels awesome. He just kind of like comes in and he doesn't really squat that heavy, but it just looks good and feels good for him. But I'm the opposite. And so that, to me right now, I'm honestly just realizing this is like the hardest, really, really the hardest part. So it's like I want to go to the gym and I want to feel good now. And it's hard for me to feel good doing back squats, to feel good doing front squats, unless I do loads of volume and just get a big pump going in my legs. But that doesn't necessarily get me stronger, if that makes sense.
Zach, I saw in one of your training videos, it might have been on your Instagram or maybe in a clip on one of the YouTube videos, your kind of strength training you were doing now, like you were doing just walking, lunges, kind of general hypertrophy stuff. Do you bring a lot of your advantage from weightlifting, like having a big clean and jerk, having a big squat, having a bigger pull than almost any other jiu-jitsu person in a kind of recreational sense? Do you not train that stuff as much anymore and you just stick to general strength movements? Or do you think kind of everybody doing jiu-jitsu just needs to do general strength movements?
No, I think everyone, it depends, right? So when I got into jiu-jitsu, again, I'm not anything. I think I'm pretty fucking good for my level, like my experience level, just because I'm an athlete and I have that strength background. But my experience is like, I came in with 99.9th percentile strength levels. I mean, I'm taught like, and I don't like saying, oh, jiu-jitsu people are weak, but compared to a strength sport, it's not even close. It's not even remotely close. The energy systems are so different, and the demands on like really, really crazy ranges of flexibility are just too much to allow you to strain maximally repeatedly. You might be able to pull it off once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times a week, but you cannot, develop the skill of strength training. So I had that when I went into jiu-jitsu. So for me, it's like, okay, how do I try to limit that decay, right? So essentially, like, I forget, I have one of these books here, actually.
And that's why Zach has started TRT.
No. Yeah, it's a TRT booklet. I can't find it. It's Tudor Bompo's book. Oh, no, it's not here. Oh, yeah, it is. Got it. Come here, you little fuck. I think it's in this one. Basically, it's like there's like a little graph. You guys see this.
Yeah.
it's like a little graph, basically, preparation for your season, your competitive season. And then this would be like your weightlifting performance or weight room performance. It kind of goes up. And then when the competition comes, it goes down, right? And someone who doesn't train properly in the weight room, it decays fast. And someone who does, it just kind of decays at like a steadier, less extreme pace. And that's essentially what I've been doing for the last year, is going into the weight room and preventing extreme decay. And that's it. That's all I can do. I don't have the capability to do otherwise. But to really answer your question, I think that when people get in the weight room for jiu-jitsu, you need to accomplish a couple things. One is you need to get the most bang out of your buck as far as muscle growth and strength gain goes. And you need to be able to do that while having a lot of mental acuity, and that's difficult. So I don't know if you guys have ever coached like elite or very good athletes who train very hard. When they walk into the weight room, they're like, some of them are like, all right, I'm ready to work. But a decent portion of them, for obvious reasons, and this does not, I never look at people who act like this like they're any less of an athlete than anyone else. But they walk in and they're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to fucking warm up, dude.
Yeah.
I don't want to warm up right now. You want me to do back squats right now? Like, what? Do you have any idea what I did for training this morning? You don't. You don't have any fucking idea, Mr. Piece of Shit strength coach. So my thing is like, I get that because I was there at training this morning. I watched you go, So when we get in, I'll be like, hey, here's our 2 movement warm up. Okay. Hip bridges and walking lunges. And you're going to rotate and I'm going to blast the fucking music. Okay. So it's 2 movements, hip bridges, lunges, 3 rounds, switch with your partner. And they'll do that for 3 rounds. After that, they'll be like a little bit more awake and I'll go, all right, get the bar on your back and let's start squatting. Let's fucking just go. Okay. So they start kind of like going through back squats, like creaking, their knees are hurting, whatever. Then next thing you know, we're back squatting for the next 25, 30 minutes of back squatting. Okay. Next thing you know, we're blasting metal. Guys are like getting fired up before the lifts. You know what I'm saying? There's that excitement. There's that build. Okay, that's 3 movements. And in reality, that's 1 movement. The whole day is based off of a fucking back squat, If I take them and I put them through a bunch of corrective exercises and then we go and we do 5 different squat type of movements that have some sort of skill. They have to, all right, everybody stop what you're doing. Watch me. I'm going to explain to you how to do this. And then you guys are going to practice. And then we're going to do 3 working sets. And then we're going to do all of that over and over and over again. It just does not work. It's the number one thing that I found out. In that video I made about training the jiu-jitsu guys and training for myself, like that is the most important thing. Figuring out how to tap in psychologically to people who are already at their wits' end psychologically.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think that's where a lot of weightlifters fall down in their training, and powerlifters definitely fall into this as well. Is like they spend so much time on the tiny corrective shit, and then they're like, you might talk to them and you're like, oh yeah, you've been squatting for the last 4 months. Like, yeah, but I haven't gone over 70 kilos because I'm really trying to fix this one thing. And you're like, the only thing you need to do is squat and get a heavier squat, and then do all your other stuff. Like, they'll spend so much time on the minutiae of like, oh, I just want this small amount of release under here, so I do 20 minutes of foam rolling. It's like, if you did 20 minutes of planks and back extensions, you'd be a national champion with the amount of work you've done so far.
Yeah. I think, the other thing that I try to accomplish is just like muscle growth. So I'm trying to find, so it's muscle growth and mental acuity. Really, that's it. And then it depends on what equipment we have, but that's all I focus on.
Yeah.
It's like, what can make these guys focus for fucking 45 minutes? And then what can make them grow? And so another thing is like, that cannot be specific to your sport because we're not doing that in our sport. In jiu-jitsu, we're not getting stronger. We're not growing muscle. So when we come into the weight room, I want to do something that's different than jiu-jitsu. That's different, but not to the level of making you feel like shit, either with recovery or psychologically. So that's it. That's my mission statement. And I honestly think that's pretty much any strength coach's mission statement, you know, to a certain extent. There are some, what I noticed is, you know, some of the forwards on rugby teams, just like linemen, they do a lot more maximal training. And I don't know, like linemen in American football, and I don't know how legitimate that is, but it seems as though they are pushing like strength harder and like almost worrying less about recovery. And maybe that's just like a tradition type of thing.
Well, see, like,
that makes sense.
I think the biggest difference there between jiu-jitsu and rugby is rugby will always, even down to like a club level, will have a very definitive off season. Whereas I think you see a lot of grappling and UFC and MMA just will not take an off season. Like the idea of not doing some kind of striking or grappling for 2 months would be just insane. Whereas for rugby, it would be insane not to take the summer off. It would just make no sense to rugby players. So then they get like 3 months of just going ham. Like there's guys in the local gym there. There's a 17-year-old talking to him. He's maybe a potential for Munster. Looking at him, he's 105 kilos. And all he's thinking about right now before his season starts again properly is he wants to squat 200 kilos high bar, you know, and he's like, the idea of an off season is ingrained in rugby, and that's why they're so good at their S&C. Whereas I think then you see like jiu-jitsu athletes being like 6 weeks not in the gym, and you're like, what the fuck, you know? So like for coaching them like that is just, and that would be the biggest boon. Imagine if you've some pretty good grapplers there. Imagine if they took just January and February off every year, and you're like, okay, we're going to gain like 2 kilos of mass. Imagine what you could do with them for the rest of the year then, you know? But it'd be...
some of them did take some time off, and we had camps. So it was like we'd have, okay, we're 9 weeks out. And I would only take like 3 of those weeks to just hammer them with like heavy brute force shit and just have them push past it. Because at the end of their camp, they're actually fighting really hard. They're going really, really hard at each other because they have to. They have to get ready. And so then when they get in the gym, I'm like, what's going to make you feel good today? That's it. And get out.
Exactly.
I can't do anything else.
Yeah, like the part of the off season needs to be just time to kind of chill out for a little bit before you go ham in your off season, you know. So
rugby. So football's the exact same.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, how is it possible? You can't, you know why? Here's why. You can't play football by yourself. You can't just, you know what I mean? You can't just join a team and just like, oh, I'm playing football for this team this summer or this off season. It's like, no, you can't. Like there's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because if your team is not playing and it's not fall ball or anything like that, so like, football is in the fall, spring ball. You know, all you can do in the off season is get bigger, stronger, faster. And not play football. I imagine it's the same thing with rugby.
Yeah.
Unless you have guys playing for other clubs and stuff, but that's more of a rare occasion, especially at the higher level.
Definitely. Like another funny kind of commonality there is what your position dictates what your off season looks like. So a lot of the time, the bigger forwards, and I'm sure like linemen in American football, off season, like that 3 or 4 months is their time. Like if you're talking to a 17-year-old prop or a 17-year-old second row, that 3 months is going to make their season. So like if they're going to make an underage team or a representative team, they'll make that in the off season, and depending on their shape when they come back, that will dictate a lot of it. Whereas with backs, like the half backs especially, their season will really be dictated with how they play. Like how they play in a number of games when they're being watched. And I assume it's the same in American football. Like when you look at those positions, it's a difference in like actual size and shape combined with a small bit of, or a significant amount of how they play on the field combined with just on game day performance.
Yeah, because, you know, at the end of the day, like a lot of what linemen do are repeatable. And it's I would imagine it's the same thing with forwards. It's like, it's really hard to show your skill as a lineman, although you have to at some point. Like you have to. There's linemen that are perfectly built that will get beat. and it's not always the strongest guy, the fastest guy, and we don't know why. I mean, that's part of the sport. It's like a lot of people obsess. We have the combine, we have the NFL combine here, and we obsess with that stuff. And the reality is, some of the best players didn't have that great of combines. Who am I thinking of?
Thomas Brady,
the best wide receiver ever. Rice. His last name's Rice. God, what? Jerry Rice. Best wide receiver ever. I don't even know that he broke like a 4.6, maybe 4.7, 40. And we're talking about the best wide receiver. It's like we love thinking about that, but at some point you have to be a gamer. You have to be just a good athlete. There's no beating that without playing. And I think for forwards in rugby, at some point you have to make plays, and you can't just be a big dude who's super strong. And that's the same thing in football, for sure.
Zach, do you feel like you're involved in the jiu-jitsu community the same way that you're involved in like weightlifting? Like, do you feel like you're kind of entrenched in jiu-jitsu now, or do you feel like you do jiu-jitsu and you do some S&C for some of those good athletes, but do you feel like it's the same thing in your head, or do you feel like it's kind of a bit more of a hobby rather than a lifestyle kind of thing?
No, it's definitely more of a hobby for sure. But I don't know, for a minute there I was going to like these guys' matches and really feeling out like the professional world of jiu-jitsu, just checking it out. I've been to a ton of matches. I've met a lot of people. But it seems as though it's a little bit more like it is a hobbyist sport primarily, and it will always be, and which is very strange, right? You would never call wrestling a hobbyist sport. There aren't any wrestling clubs around here where you can just go as a normie and drop in. So that's really what it's similar to CrossFit in that sense. In like, yeah, there's a professional sphere, but the vast majority of people just want a hobby that gets them in better shape, that, in jiu-jitsu can help you kick some ass if you need to. But I think, to answer your question better, I'm definitely in that kind of hobbyist mindset. I've competed before and I'll probably compete again. It's difficult to really push in something like this because there's no definite line. If I was working with one of my guys, Cody, and just being like, all right, my whole job, like he's paying me and my whole job is to get him ready for his next MMA fight, that's a clear-cut job. You know what I mean? But right now it's kind of like it's hard to – there isn't enough professionalism in jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu in grappling to the point where it's like there aren't many people who have finite jobs in the sport, if that makes sense, right? That aren't just owners of gyms. So for me, it's like, yeah, I think I could do more like jiu-jitsu based content. I could do things like that, but for me, I'm kind of just taking it. I'm just sitting back and letting it come to me. I don't want to force my hand. I think there's a lot more respect that's due in something like that. Just because I have a louder voice, if I was to go into the jiu-jitsu community, doesn't mean that I should speak up.
Zach, one thing I'd be interested to get your opinion on is like, obviously we talk about like adult onset athletes a lot, right? So guys and girls who mightn't have trained that hard as teenagers or as youths, and then when they're in their 30s or late 20s, they start doing a sport, and like CrossFit has it, jiu-jitsu has it. Like one of the best jiu-jitsu athletes I ever trained, he won Abu Dhabi twice, like in the purple belt division. So he's always come to the gym really, really beat up, right? So obviously he's fighting or rolling or whatever it is 4 or 5 times a week. It's his full-time job. That's all he does is coach jiu-jitsu and then train jiu-jitsu. And he was saying the number one thing or the number one issue he has is, like, say Gurf wants to take up jiu-jitsu or I want to take it up, and you're 6 months in and you get injured. Is there stuff you're like kind of focusing in on now with your experience in S&C where you're really focusing like on shoulders, elbows, knees, trying to rigidify them?
Yeah, for jiu-jitsu specifically? Yeah, shoulders. So, for sure the shoulders, because the posture in fighting is always, it's just like against literally everything we ever want to do in any sort of weightlifting endeavor. So the posture is, the scaps rotated forward, and then you kind of tuck your chin like this too, especially like if you want to box or do any sort of striking, you're always kind of like this, right? And you're never like that, right? In a like open position with the scaps down and back. So you get a lot of these guys rotated forward, and you get this kyphosis that ends up kind of just like becoming somewhat permanent. And it's really, really frustrating, because if you want to apply force into your hands, it has to go through this massive joint that moves around back here, which is, the shoulder blades, the amount of movement and give that they have, and your thoracic spine, the amount of movement. If you're not working with that, if you're just kind of holding it in that rounded posture, it's really hard to work with. And it can be actually very dangerous to start working around that posture. To have an athlete who's, rounded forward to try and lift their arm up, you will put a lot of strain on their shoulders. So honestly, what I would do with these guys in the gym is literally every day try to open up their shoulders somehow. And like I was saying with that other example before, I would give them 2 movements. I'd be like, guys, we're going to hammer the shit out of these 2 movements. Ready? Go. And just like start sweating and working through these things. And a lot of these movements are big movements. They're not, sometimes they could be like small banded things, but I'll have them do a ton of reps. The thing is, I have to get them to work out. I have to get them to feel like they're getting through something. If they're doing tiny little corrective things that take 3-4 rounds to build up, it's like they're just not going to work hard on it. So, but yeah, I would say, honest to God, either before or after, we will do some sort of direct shoulder work. And then what we'll do is just kind of basic weightlifting, and that will take care of postural issues. And I know that might sound crazy. Is like, okay, you're doing a big global movement to take care of it. But again, if I'm telling people to have good posture while they're moving globally with at the most weight possible, I can't really think of a better way to work on posture issues. I can't, you know what I mean? There's like a lot of fancy schmancy stuff. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of PRI, postural restoration something.
No.
Yeah, and it's almost exactly what you'd say. It's like corrective exercises, but a lot around breathing and like, like, oh, you're breathing wrong, or, things like that. It's like, at the end of the day, they're athletes and they got to work, you got to think about what you want. What's the bulk of what you want? You want them to get this taken care of so they can start doing this. So again, that's it for me. I find that jiu-jitsu players, their hips are really good. For the most part, almost every person I work with can deep squat very, very well. So a lot of their back squats, a lot of their front squats are good. And the issue becomes pressing. So whether it's vertical or horizontal, that's when things can get shaky, and they need to work on pressing, because it's important for what we call frames in jiu-jitsu, which is basically like protecting your body from someone else. You have to have frames, and people are pushing you this way, and you just have to kind of press isometrically against them. So if we press someone and they have bad posture, that's when they can make the shoulder even worse. So that's it.
Zach, so just like we were talking about with the kind of amateur use of PEDs in CrossFit, how is it viewed among? So obviously, high level grappling is a shitload of PED use.
Everyone is.
Yeah.
It's a known fact that every single grappler at a high level. Except, honestly, here's the weird thing: I'm with teenage boys who are in this thing.
Yeah.
And I know they're clean, and they know that they're clean, and they know that they get smashed by some of these guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
They get fucking smashed. And I go,
yeah.
I honestly, I've said, I go, well, you got to, I mean, you have to hop on gear if you want to beat these guys. I mean, you have to. And he goes, yeah. One of them was just like, yeah, but I'm not going to. And I'm probably, you know, it's like, I'm just not, it's not there for me. It's not that important.
But
I don't even want to talk about who, but I know there's a matchup that had happened recently. One of my guys, so people could find out who it is.
Yeah.
And the guy he went against, blatant steroid abuser, right? And the guy who I'm coaching is 19 and never used a PED in his life. He's like just a good fucking kid and eats really well, sleeps well, trains so hard. And this guy just brute forced his way into a victory against him. And sorry, I interrupted you there, but
how is that? That's why when I'm wondering, like, how is that viewed among individuals? Because obviously, weightlifting, you know, if someone blatantly comes to a small time competition and snatches power snatches like 150 when people are like pressing out like 80 kilo snatches, you know, so everyone's like, okay, a douchebag, but no one really cares. It doesn't really affect anyone, you know. How is that?
Yeah, because there's no testing worldwide, so no one cares.
But
you know,
but like, how's that viewed as individual basis? If in your gym, there's clearly someone. It's like even in your local gym, like how do jiu-jitsu athletes view that when it's, you know, clearly there's someone on gear and like they're mashing people or whatever. Like how is that viewed as in like as a community basis thing?
Yeah, I mean it's part of it. You know, I think there's plenty of older guys on TRT. The cool thing is like it's not that dangerous of a sport. At the like it's not, it can be very dangerous, but it's the reason why we can actually fight in it is because there's no striking. There's problems that can occur and they do occur, but for the most part, it's really the only martial art that we can do 100% in training without damage being done. And yeah, I mean, there's plenty of guys, I'm sure at my gym on TRT, and I don't know, like, I know that our gym doesn't give a fuck because it's very competitive in nature and we're all kind of like, there's not much ego there. A lot of people just help other people fight better and train harder. But I do know this, right? So ADCC is the number one. That's for no-gi grappling. That is the pinnacle. It's every 2 years. It's a tournament that's every 2 years, and it's going to be in 2022. It's going to be in Vegas. So I'm definitely going to go and watch that. But ADCC is, it's like you almost are an idiot if you aren't on gear, right? You're not. Having said that, there are ways to attack guys who are on gear that were being displayed last ADCCs. There's a guy, his name's Lachlan Giles. He's a Australian guy. Now, here's the thing. He could have been on gear, but boy, did he not look like it. Okay? He just looked like a regular dude in a regular-ass rash guard, sitting back and just cranking these meatheads' fucking heels into oblivion, dude. Heel hooking these dudes into the shadow realm. And he just, you know, these guys with, you know, single-digit body fat percentages with their shirts off, you know. But holy shit, if I'm going to send you guys a highlight video from last ADCC, and you guys are going to laugh your fucking asses off when you see these bodies. These dudes just are meatheads, straight up. And it looks really frightening. And I'm sure it is very frightening, okay? But the idea, when you go to something like that, you should probably get on gear. You probably should. I know, and this sounds crazy, but I would get on gear if I went and did something like that. There's no testing. There's zero testing.
Well,
okay,
you'll take gear for jiu-jitsu, but you wouldn't take gear for weightlifting, Zach. What the fuck?
Well, but here's the thing: is like, for me, the shame of getting popped, is that's where I draw the line. It's like the shame and the guilt would overtake me. You know what I mean? Because I guess maybe because the way our country is set up around it, we will go after our own. Like if someone gets popped from our country, we're going to take them down with memes and what have you. Whereas, you know, in other countries, people don't give a shit, or they kind of just, and there's nothing bad with that, but it's like that's what would stop me in weightlifting, really. You know, I don't want to say like our morals are different, but the way that our system is set up is different to the point where it wouldn't be worth it. But again, grappling, it's a known, I mean, it is honestly one of the most dope heavy sports I've ever really witnessed. I'm not fucking kidding you.
And Zach is kind of getting more serious and more serious into the competitive side. Is that on the horizon for you? Can you see yourself?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think I really don't know. It's one of those things where it might just be a flash in the pan a few times a year for me. Really, it might. And where I can have like a good camp going up to it and doing something like that. These these grinders, God, they are obsessed, and I don't think I can do that, to be honest with you. I don't think I could do what these guys do. It's like they finish these matches and they're just like, all right, when's the next one? Let's go. And it's the same thing with MMA guys. They're fucking crazy too. Fucking crazy. I went to some amateur fights, and dude, the guys at the amateur level are basically professional. It's like kind of like cycling, like amateur cycling. Those guys train like fucking animals. They train like psychos, and they're amateurs, you know. And that's how it is at in grappling. I don't think though, for me, man, it would stress me out too much. 100%.
Are you missing weightlifting at the moment? Do you ever miss it? Or are you like full time weightlifting?
I do. I honestly just miss having bigger legs and, you know, and bigger belly, and just being able to like absolutely destroy a 150 clean and jerk. Just like fucking step up and go think, think, you know, catch it, boom, right overhead. Like I miss doing that. Seriously. That is the one thing I miss. If I could do anything over again, it would be to absolutely destroy 150 clean and jerk like I used to, and then I don't even care if I get near maximal numbers anymore. If I could do one thing, it would be that.
That's TRT, Zach. like Ubering, but with Zach with TRT.
The crazy thing is, I don't think I would be able to do it anyways. I'm telling you, man, it feels crazy. It feels awful to squat. It just feels like shit for me.
Zach, on a totally different tangent, or kind of similar to weightlifting, do you have any talents coming up in your weightlifters? Do you have anyone who you're like, this person is going to be somebody you think, or, you know, even on the national scene?
Personally, I have 3 athletes I have 5 that are like at the national level, but 3 of them are like much more active. One of them, her name is Alyssa Allen. But she, you know, these aren't that high level, but they're just people I'm excited about. Her name's Alyssa Allen. She had a baby a little over a year ago, and then she came back and she did, God, what was it, like 89, 105? I think she's like 81. So, you know, nothing crazy, but she's someone who could do over 100 at some point. And she could do near 120. So, and then I literally have another 81. Her name's Lauren Metcalf, who has done 94, 110 in competition. And like, you know, it was crazy. She was lifting really well. I had like a big technique session with her. We had like few big epiphanies. As cringy as that sounds, you know, it's like, oh, I found this new trick, and now you're going to lift a lot more. It actually kind of happened like that. But she was doing really well, and then she got hit by a car. And, yeah, she got hit by a car so hard that it made an indent in her leg.
Jesus.
Fucking hell.
Like a literal fucking indent in her leg, and she had to get surgery to, like, have her leg fixed. If she wasn't a weightlifter, we were talking, she's like, if I didn't have the size legs that I did, I would have been really fucked. Really fucked. Probably would have been like a broken femur or something. But anyway, she was doing really well. and that happened. But now she's back. So both of those ladies are going to the American Open final. And then I have my junior athlete. This is his final year as a junior. Right now we're trying to get him to go 293. His name's Grant. Trying to get him to go 293 so he can qualify for the American Open final. So it's nice. It's a really good thing, I think, for a junior athlete to qualify for a senior competition, like a real senior competition. I think it's really important for them to do that if they can. If not, it's whatever. Like sometimes people develop later on, many years later. He's only been in the sport since he was 18. So, 20 years old now, and I think he did like 287 or something, which is good. But I'm telling you, the guys in his weight class, like the juniors in his weight class, you wouldn't believe the numbers they're lifting, man. It's crazy. He did 280. No, I don't think he did 287. I think it was like 285 or something. And he got third place in the clean and jerk, fourth place in the total. For juniors at 102 body weight. It's wild. There's like some American kids that just like are obsessed with this sport. And they come up to me at meets and they're just like, dude, I love your shit. I'm like, thank you so much. But they're like, I could tell though that they're moving past me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm kind of the intro to weightlifting, and then they go, fuck that guy. Like, fuck Zach. Like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm more about the hardcore shit. And then once they turn 25, they'll come back to me and be like, man, thank you so much for that.
Yeah. They'll come back and say their knees hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are my guys right now that I'm kind of looking at.
So there's two kind of more questions related to that I want to ask you, but on that kind of YouTube side of things, how do you feel about I feel like I said this to Dara, but we've kind of entered, and I've said it to you and Seb before, but we're in a little bit of an era where we have like the kind of smarmy know-it-all amateur in weightlifting, just a little bit.
Yeah. It's almost, it could be an evolution of the know-it-all kind of, like, if at this point, if you don't have a nuanced take around steroids, one that is multi-varied, one that takes in different factors, and you make just blatant kind of shit statements that have been made since, the early 2000s. Like, if at this point, if you're making that, you don't know shit. Okay, and your opinion is like, I don't give a fuck about your opinion, because there's just too much information. There are too many different factors to just cast this blanket type of thing over things, right? And I think those were the types of people that were just like, they would rip on Kendrick Ferris. Like, Kendrick Ferris did a 211 kilo clean and jerk at 94 kilos, which was the American record. He did it at University Worlds. Do you know which lift I'm talking about?
Yeah. University.
Yeah. And like the top comments were like, yeah, and there's Chinese 77s doing more.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, that's the type of shit that I never want to see that shit again. Okay, that was in 2013. Even in 2013, sure, we're all on Team Liu Xiaojun in 2013. Put it up there. But if I see that shit anymore, I'm like, I hate that person. And so it's almost an evolution of that person to now being the smarmy amateur, like knowing everything because there's a lot more information out there. So now it's like they can disagree with something and then they can pull like, oh yeah, well I saw this Catalyst video. Oh yeah, well I saw this, Sika strength video. I saw this Zack Telander video. I saw this video saying this thing. I have this information now that you don't. Even though I've never practiced, it doesn't matter. I can argue with you. I think that's where we're at. I think it's an evolution of that.
I think the funny thing with that is like what used to set people apart before was like experience and then having sought some sort of knowledge. So like they might have done a sport for a certain amount of time and gone and learned from a certain amount of coaches, and that was kind of like the difference you'd see in people. Or if they'd read a certain amount of things, if you're talking to weightlifters at competitions, you'll know the person who's kind of just listened to one coach and that's all they know. You can see through them immediately. Like the difference between people now is like whether someone has a good bullshit filter or not. Like, because everyone has all of the information immediately. Everyone's after looking at, 85% of all the information. Most people have seen the same things, read the same texts, and it's just the people who have a small bit more of an ability to kind of filter through things and say, like, okay, that doesn't really matter. This matters a small bit more. Like, that's the difference you see all the time.
You know, it's the information thing, that everyone has all the information, so they have all the answers, right? And that's just not the case, because if you don't do the thing, you don't have any answers to anything. That's, if we would circle back to Mark Rippetoe, that's exactly his fucking problem, right? Is he has all the answers to everything, but he's never actually gone through the process of determining whether those answers are real or not. And the thing is, he's not liable for any of the claims that he makes because he never goes through the process of it. If it is a massive risk to go for Mark Rippetoe to bring a lifter to a national meet, is a massive risk for him. So he'll never do it. He'll never, ever, ever do it. No one from Starting Strength will ever do it, because it's not, the end game is not worth it. They really do milk the algorithm. And it's the same. So to kind of get back to what you were saying, Fitz, is like, how many times have you guys experienced someone who's been like, hey, can you mentor me? I will pay you to mentor me. Can you know, they want your information. They want your, I don't want to say they're riding your coattails, but there's a difference between going out and pursuing the best of the best and doing it in a way in which you think will check boxes. Okay? So it's like, if I go, like, let's say I'm a new weightlifter and I want to be the best coach and I want to be the best weightlifter I can. I'm going to travel to Cal Strength. I'm going to talk to Dave Spitz every day. I'm going to train with him. And then after that, I'm going to move to somewhere else and I want to learn from everyone. I want to pull from everywhere and be smart and do all this shit. The reality is you're not fucking creating anything for yourself. You're not doing anything yourself. You're not even training yourself. You don't even know how to train. You're just sucking in different things. It's kind of this mindset that comes from universities where, like, kids, they show up to class and they go, what is going to get me the grade that I want? And the teacher goes, this is going to get you the grade that you want. And then you do that thing and then you get the grade that you want. Sorry, weightlifting and real life just doesn't fucking work like that. I could tell any kid the proper answer, the perfect answer to things, but it won't mean that they're going to be good at weightlifting. So you have a bunch of kids who train in Globo gyms. They train at Gold's gyms here, and then they'll go online and they'll comment like, you know, Owen doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Fitz doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. You know, I watched this video. And they've never done anything and they never will do anything. However, their voice is just as loud as yours or mine. Just as loud, if not louder. And there's going to be plenty of upvotes, and it's a contrarian opinion, you know? It's a very strange thing. The more information that comes about around our sport, the more self-proclaimed experts we have that don't need anyone else, you know? They have all the answers. It's just that they'll never put it into practice.
Yeah, I think the funny thing is as well is, like, a question we always get is, how do I become a strength and conditioning coach? What qualifications do I need? What courses should I do? Do I need to go to university? And then you're like, you haven't mentioned coaching someone once. You know, like, I have this cert, this cert, this cert. It's like, you haven't fucking coached anyone and you want to be a coach. Like, maybe try that.
Yes. That's fucking perfect. You know what I was saying? It's like, that would be my one thing that I would say. How do I be a weightlifting coach? It's like, go ask your friend if he wants to be coached by you.
Yeah. And if he doesn't, there's probably something wrong.
You know, like, seriously, go pay your friend to go to coach him. Pay him $20 a month to do his coaching. And then, you know, take some videos and say, look at what I did for my friend. I got my friend a 70 kilo snatch PR, you know, and look at my programs. And then maybe your other friend texts you and go, hey, can I get some programming? You go, yeah, $20. You know, now you're breaking even. You got a guy that you're paying.
I think you do see people with, you know, so you have the like smarmy percentage, and now in fairness, they are a tiny percentage of
very small. Yeah.
Tiny, like we're talking like less than 1%. The vast majority of the weightlifting community is like, geez, that was a great video, thanks for making that, or thanks for talking to Gabriel, or something like that. You know, people are very appreciative of information, but I think you do see, because a lot of those people have like a little bit of a bullshit detector. Like they do have, like they might not know that what's wrong or why that's wrong, but they're still kind of like, this doesn't really make sense. I think people have a lot of people have somewhat of a kind of an intuition, I suppose, around some of the information people put out too, you know.
It's also, it's nice to hear what the counter argument is via comment section, so that you will, when you make another video, and you guys are already on it, every video I watch yours, which I watch probably 98% of your videos. I've missed a few of them. I apologize.
There's too many.
But most of your videos, you guys are offering disclaimers before anything you state. Yeah. And welcome to YouTube.
Yes.
That's how it works. You offer your disclaimer, which basically means, hey, I know what you fuckers are going to say.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Here's why it's not what you think. And then here's what I'm talking about. That's YouTube. That right there. I know what you fuckers are going to say. Here's what you are going to think. And that's why it's not what you're going to think.
One of the most enjoyable things about this for me is like, there'll be a few times every week where Garth will screenshot a comment and send it to me, or I'll do vice versa. And it'll be like, I had no idea someone's brain could ever work like that. Like, we put out the doping and CrossFit video, and someone was like, no, the ones who are winning are the genetic elites, so they don't need to take drugs. And I remember looking at that comment being like, wait, what the fuck did they just say?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Yeah, I don't understand it. I don't think I will, and I don't really want to.
No.
It makes no sense. Dude, I mean, there's some crazy mental gymnastics.
No.
Yeah.
Crazy. This Mark Rippetoe one,
yeah.
Holy shit. I'm talking people doing backflips in the comment section, trying to make shit make sense to me.
No, it's the mental gymnastics for me is my favorite. Like, because you're like, this is impressive. Like, you're definitely trying to make this work for you. Like, this isn't an accident. Like, you're 100% trying to make this work. So,
have you ever heard of the Wikipedia game?
No.
You guys ever heard of that game? So it's basically, we used to do this in high school when we'd be in like the computer lab fucking around when we were supposed to be, working. My friend would be like, okay, we're going to do orange juice to the Professional Bowling Association.
I think so, yes.
And you have to only click hyperlinks to get from orange juice to the Professional Bowling Association, right? That's the mental gymnastics. It's the same thing. It's the same process. It's like, okay, I know all I want to do is disagree with you guys, with Sika Strength. And so what I have to do is I have to take where we're at starting, and I have to build this journey of, diarrhea language and come up with how I'm going to end up disagreeing with you. So basically it's like, CrossFitters at the top don't need to take dope. Right? Okay, how the fuck am I going to You know what I'm saying? How the fuck am I going to make this work? And they just sit there and they're just like, yes, good, yes, that's it. And then they press send.
Yeah. But there's this thing where people, Squat University and Stuart McGill are kind of getting some kind of bad wind their way at the moment for some reason, okay? And that's whatever, like it's we've had Aaron on a good bit. Aaron's helped me a load of times, like 5 different times with injuries, okay, and we've talked to him. But we made that video of talking about Joel Seidman, where we talked about, not all science is the same science. And then someone in the comments went, oh, great video. This doesn't really gel with your reverence for Aaron and Stuart McGill. And you're like, what? What the fuck has this got to do with anything? Like, why are you telling us this? Like, you go talk to Aaron and tell him why he's wrong. Like, why are you telling us this? Like, I don't get it, like.
Yeah. Oh God, I get shit. You can't control people's brains and their mouths and their fingers. You can't control them. You fucking. It is ridiculous that somebody can type all. You know what it is? It's just, at the end of the day, it's just accountability, right? Like, you don't have any. You're not held. You're held accountable. You two are held accountable for what you say, but no one else is.
Yeah.
So when they disagree with you and when they talk shit, No, it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. It doesn't matter because they just go off and do their job and live their lives, whereas this is your life.
Yeah.
This is what you do. And that ultimately to me is why when people are like, why do you take these negative comments so seriously? Why don't you just move on? Like there's nothing I hate more than that. There's nothing I hate more than that. When people are like, well, you have a big following now, so you need to learn how to like filter this shit. Or you have a big following now, like learn how to like move past the haters and shit like that. It's like there is no fucking handbook for this. There is no handbook for success on any sort of social media platform. There is no handbook for that. There is no learning. It's like I can't. If you guys and I are having issues with smarmy commenters, imagine what fucking Doja Cat deals with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or is it that they're so massive that they're so far away from any commenter? I think actually it's the latter. Right? Like Billie Eilish is so far removed because she has so many millions. Like, can you imagine if you're Billie Eilish and you just press post on Instagram? What happens to your phone? Does her phone just fucking explode? Because it's just like 7,000 likes, 21,000 likes just in 14 seconds, just like freaking out and shit. It's like that at that point, she has no relation to her fan base. There's no connection there. So the comments is like, you're one of 1 billion people. Like, it just doesn't fucking matter to me. Whereas to me, it's like I answer my DMs to a decent extent. So I'm in touch with these people, right? I will see a comment and I can go, hey, like, I'm here. You know what I mean? So yeah, it does affect me in that way. But I'm wondering if you know what I'm saying? Like if you're so famous that it just doesn't affect you the same way?
But it's like, in my opinion, in some ways it should affect you, or not even affect you. It should make you take note when someone says something really egregious. Yes. Because if someone bursts into the office right now and says, you're fucking wrong about MMA, UFC, S&C conditioning, you're wrong about that, you'd be like, who the fuck are you and what are you talking about? You wouldn't ignore it. So in the same way you'd see it on the comments, like some parts you're probably a little bit of a psychopath if you just fully ignore it all the time. There's probably something wrong if you can just, I would say nothing ever emotionally like arouses us, like nothing ever makes us like particularly angry.
Speak for yourself.
But we're like, you're just kind of like, what the fuck is he talking about or she talking about? Like I imagine what it's like. No, actually, it's probably like a percentage of what it's like to be an attractive female on Instagram, like the amount of DMs girls get, and they're just kind of supposed to do the same thing where it's like, if someone flashed them on the street, they'd be like, what the fuck is this? Same way, like,
yes,
I feel like
yes.
There's probably something wrong if you get numb to it, I think. If you just start getting used to it, I think, in some ways.
Yeah. I mean, look, if we're not really complaining about this because we get to do what we want. We get to make content about the things we love and do the things we love. But it is something worth talking about, I think. The more in touch we get with our audience, it helps us. I think one thing that's interesting is like, again, like I was saying before, is like it helps you understand the counter argument more.
Yeah.
Because and it doesn't even mean the actual counter argument, it just means the misunderstanding or the misplacement of your original argument. So this is the most frustrating thing with YouTube is like, okay, we have a finite amount of time, anywhere from, I would say, 25 to 8 minutes. Okay, that's the range. 8 minutes to 25 minutes. And I would say typically for me, it's probably a 10-minute long video. 10 minutes to now make an argument, but before you get to that argument, you have to offer a certain level of disclaimers, right? And if you miss one, someone might jump on that, right? Or if the beats aren't correct. That's the craziest thing. The beats of your argument aren't correct. So by the time someone comments, it doesn't... Here's a great example, dude. This is fucking wild. I said this. I said, last video, you guys commented a lot of really cool stuff about old school weightlifting. And I said, well, this is pre-golden era weightlifting. Golden era weightlifting, for example, is guys like Naeem, guys like, Uric Vardanyan. That would be golden era, and I went on to talk about my previous video. Okay. Then I go and talk about Vyacheslav Klokov. The first comment is, dude, this is very much golden era weightlifting you're talking about. Do you understand? Do you get that? I was talking, but it didn't fit in his brain. My disclaimer did not fit through his fucking ear hole to make him understand that I was talking about a previous video. I wasn't descript enough. So it's almost like every fucking sentence you lay out has to have something that supposes that one so that someone can understand it before they argue against you. It's fucking wild. Having said all that, it almost helps you unlock that more. It becomes a second language to you. Next time you guys are making a video or writing something out, you'll present the counter argument without even thinking about it because you've read so many comments. You know the conversation. That's the reality of it. You understand, like, how much better do we understand the conversation of drugs now? Because we've seen just loads of comments of people that may have the same take as you or may have a different take as you. So honestly, it's a give and a take. It's beneficial, but also it's annoying.
It is as well. Like, it's just a few of those little areas seem to trigger things. Like the drug argument triggers things way more, and you don't really figure it out until you poke the bear, like you need to put something out first day and it'll be like, holy shit, like squat frequency, immediately it's like 5 by 5, like 5 times a week, 2 times a week, every day. And then next time it's just small bit more of a disclaimer, and now it's like people understand when they, like, someone will ask us a question on a live stream and they'll be like, oh, they say 2 times, like someone will answer the question before we even answer it in a live stream. They'll be like,
that's the best.
Yeah. That's when you're like what you're saying is getting across.
Yeah.
Zach, this has been an absolute pleasure as always. I'm still blown away by the fact that More Plates, More Dates never gets called out on anything. I'd never thought about that. He just never gets called out.
Yeah.
That's Zach, that's needs for your next video, calling out More Plates, More Dates, because someone needs to do it just for the fact that he just never gets, bad media. It's so impressive.
But think about it like this though. If I do something like that, it's like
you'll get the bad.
If someone gets caught red-handed and you end up just going, well, but he's doing this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't just do shit like that because that's not a good look. But I might do it. Yeah. How come no one calls More Plates, More Dates out on a shit?
Because like when Greg Duchette does it, it's kind of annoying. But I think it's just because Derek seems like a nice person. Everyone's kind of like, okay.
Yeah, he's chill.
Yeah, he's just saying it in a nice way. Anyway, Zach, thank you so much for giving us a bit of your time. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we really do.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Zach.